Peace, peace, peace. Welcome back. If you never paid attention to any of my videos, if you never shared them, I need you to switch that up right now, because what I'm about to say might affect you, right? Now, I want to talk about this victim complex, right? Now, don't get me wrong. Many of us, if not all of us, we have been naive before. We have been harmed. We have been abused in some kind of way, whether it's verbally, physically, emotionally. We have suffered some kind of calamity. We have some kind of like dealing with some kind of trauma. You get where I'm going with this. A lot of us have been through something, right? Or been a victim at one point. But the people that I'm going to talk to you about is the people who have internalized something that has happened, right? It could also be the AKA the Karen syndrome, right? Now, the Karens, it's not necessarily that something happened to them, but some of them do learn to kind of like adapt this kind of behavior because it benefits them. So, the victim complex, right? These are people who have internalized something that has happened to them in the past, or have adapted behaving in this kind of way, right? And it's to the extent or to the point that even when they are not in those kind of situations, they are creating those situations for them. Because I don't know if they miss or if they're just seeking the sympathy or people feeling sorry or feeling bad for them, right? So they kind of like create situations where they don't exist, right? Sometimes they will even provoke you. Into reacting a certain way towards them, so that they can feel justified in how they respond, or they can feel justified in feeling like they are the victim, right? So even in a situation where it could be peaceful, there's nothing going on, right? They can create a situation by either an argument, by doing something that they know you don't like, or poking the bear, right? Or whatever it is, right? But they create the situation and they will poke and poke and poke to the point where you lash out, right? To the point where you lash out. And then, once you lash out, they will say things as if like they didn't just provoke you, right? Like they will make it seem like you started the problem. Like, look how you're talking to them. Like, why are you doing this to me? Just so that they can feel that dopamine. I don't know if it gives them dopamine to feel like they're the victim, like they are helpless, right? And a lot of times this comes from their mechanism of self-sabotaging, right? They have gotten into this constant rhythm and cycle of self-sabotaging themselves and the relationships around them, right? And the need to feel like they're a victim. But that comes from some internal thing, right, that they have unaddressed, right? So, and it comes from a lot of negative self-talk, right? Oftentimes it's attached to negative self-talk. So they feel some kind of way about themselves, right? Like they might say, like, oh, I'm fat, or I'm stupid, or I'm ugly, or I'm not good enough. The self-victimization or the self-negative talk. And then they project that onto others, right? And they go around creating a situation, and it becomes draining, because some of these people, they rail you in. They might come into your life talking about somebody else that harmed them. They might come into your life, or playing victim, right, to another situation that transpired that you had nothing to do with, right? In the 48 Laws of Power, they talk about avoid the unhappy and the unlucky. They have these, I made a video talking about that too. They have these very intense emotions, right? And they rail you in and they loop you in, and you feel bad for some of them, or you be like, you empathize with them because you've been in a situation that you can relate to. somebody doing somebody wrong. So you kind of like empathize with them, and you're kind of like, oh my God, like I understand what you're going through, like, you know, and you try to work with them. Sometimes you either develop care as friendship. Some of these people are our family members. Some of these people are lovers of ours, right? So you develop that familiarity because you probably been through some of those things. But then it gets draining. It gets draining because they use the victim complex, right, to not be held accountable for their things, right? To not work on their healing or their trauma, especially childhood trauma, right? They utilize it so that you can never hold them accountable for anything. So how can you be in relationship, whether it's friendship, family ship, I know I just made that up, or any kind of like accordance with people who anytime it's time to hold them accountable, or anytime you're trying to like let them know, like, you know, they did something wrong to you or they made you feel a kind of way, they create a situation where they can play victim out of it. It's deep, man. So you know what? You have to avoid these people. You just got to get away from them. And even when you try to get away from them, they're gonna play victim again. They're gonna say you're abandoning them. A lot of them have abandonment issues, right? And because they have that unaddressed, right? Again, in some cases, there is a bunch of things at play. So some individuals that play the victim complex, they also have abandonment issues, right? And a lot of times they don't even realize they create the conditions for people to get away from them. They create the situations and the like unbearable circumstances that people just say, you know what, I'm out of here, you know. And for some people, it's harder to leave those people alone because they also have like their own abandonment issues or their own triggers, and it reminds them of a time when somebody wasn't there for them or when somebody left them. So sometimes they play on your own issues. They understand, like, yo, these people, yo, they I don't want to call them wicked because they obviously hurting, they obviously sick, they obviously need some kind of like professional help. And they're just not going to get it, you know. So I don't want to call them wicked because some people subconsciously do it. Other people are conscious of what they're doing. It's just a very complex situation, and I'm not making this video to demonize anybody or to call them a villain. That's not my intentions. I'm just bringing awareness to anybody who might be dealing with this kind of situation, right? Anybody who might be going through this right now where they don't even understand how to find a solution or how to deal with this kind of individual, right? And it's draining them. It's taking a toll on their mental health. It's taking a toll on their physical health. It's taking just an overall toll on them. But they really care and you really want to help this person. And sometimes the reality is you just got to walk away, man. And even when you walk away, they're going to try to guilt you and you know, and shame you because you're abandoning them and you're not there for them. And then they might even be like, oh, nobody's ever there for me, or nobody was ever there for me, or blah, 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 blah. You know, they're going to go into that victim stuff, right? But self-preservation is key, man. Self-preservation is key. And if you not right mentally because of somebody, if you losing sleep because of somebody, if your mood is negative because of somebody, if you're going around dragging dead weight, you know what they would do back in the days when we lived in tribes? I mean, we still kind of live in tribes, but not like before, right? We live in big cities, concrete jungles now. But you know what they would do in the tribes? If you're dead weight, they're not carrying you around. And I hate to sound insincere and insensitive, but this is about self-preservation and the preservation of the tribe and the group. There's women, there's children, there's an ecosystem here. And if you're somebody that don't want to address your problems, don't want to address your issues, and you want to walk around bleeding on everybody that is around you, and you are disrupting social cohesion amongst the tribe and amongst the community, then we can no longer carry you. Peace.